Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. He'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand the truth.
Radio. We have arrived. First Contact. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here. All right, let's see what we're dealing with. Today's the 17th of April. So for the 17th, we have two signs that we're moving between in the moon signs today, moving from where we've been, Scorpio, to the new sign, which would be Sagittarius, and that transition completes itself later this afternoon. So we're in that kind of a void of course phase as we make that transition. So we're feeling the effects of one as we move into the other. So the things we're feeling the effect of is the emotions, and we're moving from the emotions into the ideas. The difference being that Scorpio would be the tarot card of death. Sagittarius is the card of temperance. So we go from one idea of understanding life in one perspective of the difference between life and death into the fiery aspect of just understanding the truthfulness of what's going on. So there's a big difference when you go from the emotions to the ideas. That takes place later this afternoon, and this evening we have a nice good trine between Venus here and Jupiter. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion, so whenever Jupiter's with anything, it expands that field of energy around it. And a triangle or a trine means there's some nice good positive vibes going on between these two aspects, between this planet and this planet here. So with those positive vibes, it means that with our imagination, love, creativity, all of that is expanded with the Jupiter idea. So it makes for a good evening, good conversation, good time amongst people. All right, so that's a good thing. Let's look at our numerology for today. Number 1, and here's how we arrived at the number 1. We got the April, we got the 17th, 1 plus 7, the year 2014. Altogether, that's a 19. 4 plus 8 plus 7. 19 is the 1 plus the 0. And that leaves us with the 1. So today would be a one-tone day. This is the one tone, the Magician. The Magician is all about concentrating energy. You've got the sign of infinity above the Magician's head, saying that energy is infinite, always is, always has been, always shall be. You've got the hand raised up and the hand raising down or reaching down, and that represents the idea that that which is above is as that which is below. So we bring into manifestation the things that we visualize in our minds. And then we see on the table the cup, the sword, the pentacle, all of the elements are there. So this is the idea that we've been talking about with the mind, with the Kryballion, which we're going to continue on with today. The mind is all. So it all starts in the mind. We focus that energy down and we bring it into manifestation. Here's some other things about the 1. You should be familiar with these by now because they keep repeating over and over. We have individualistic, independent, showing leadership and drive. It's masculine. It represents the conscious mind. It's originator or self-starter. And the negative side, selfish, stubborn, weak, undisciplined, so on. All right, so now let's look and see on the chart here where these things fall into place. The Magician is the path right here. The Magician comes right out of the crown, and it goes to understanding. Okay, so we're going to focus our concentration to begin to understand what it is that we know, not just learn more, because the Magician is not about learning. The Magician is about understanding what is already learned. Because remember, the Magician has all of the tools available to it All the magician has to do is apply those tools, apply understanding. Okay? And again, we've got the Emperor right here for the month. Aries, the month that we're in, or this astrological sign. And then we see where we're coming out of Scorpio. And then Sagittarius is right down here, this path, right in the middle. Okay, so with Sagittarius, we come back to the middle pillar, which is where we want to be. Here's the angel of temperance. And what the angel does is the angel balances out these aspects here. Because what you have here is you have the, underneath the angel, you have the card of the tower, which is all about preconceived ideas. And preconceived ideas come about when our emotions, victory on this side here, and our intellect, which is represented by splendor, when they become out of balance, when our emotions and our intellect are out of balance, we get false ideas about things. And the angel of temperance, who overrides that, our higher self, helps us to see that false ideas are coming from false places. And when we put those emotions and this intellect in balance, guess what? We see things from a much clearer perspective. So that's where we're moving into, this clear perspective of what it is we're looking for, those fiery ideas, the purification of truth. Okay, so let's move from there to look at our moon phase for today. The moon phase is making its way back down to a new moon. We're just getting started, 94% of the way full. It's the waning phase. Waxing is going up, waning is going down. Right here it tells us that Ganymede, the largest satellite of Jupiter, will emerge from behind Jupiter's eastern limb around 10:18 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It appears into eclipse by Jupiter's shadow around 12:06 a.m. Okay, so we're looking for Ganymede when we look up by Jupiter today. This evening, the Mayan Oracle, we're at a 13-tone day. It's the cosmic tone, the jumping tone. So we've gone this whole journey of following the theme here of synchronicity and navigation, and now we've gone all the way around with this whole theme. And today we're going to jump off with the purification of what we've learned through this whole time. Okay, and then we're going to jump off to the next phase. After the number 9th would be the 10th, would be the dog. So we're jumping into the next wave spell, which is the wave spell of the dog, love, loyalty, the heart. Okay, so the phrase for today is I endure in order to purify transcending flow. I seal the process of universal water with the cosmic tone of presence. I am guided by the power of space. Space weather. Our solar wind currently is at 370.8 kilometers per second. Planetary K index is quiet in the 2 to 3 range. Coronal holes, not seeing much of anything there. M-class flare possibility is up to 60%. It's gone up a little bit from yesterday, just like the X-class has also gone up. And geomagnetic storm activity seems to be holding steady where it was yesterday. Alright, so that's what's going on there. And over on the Jewish calendar, today is Nisan 17, and it is the 3rd day of Passover. Okay, now on this being the 3rd day of Passover here, you can see there's a little bit of ways in which the two calendars aren't quite matching up. We know that Jesus was arrested before Passover began. And so that is why, looking at the Jewish calendar, we can understand a little bit better back here. Okay, when he was arrested, we're understanding that he was having a Passover Seder with his apostles, and then later was arrested. So here on the Gregorian calendar, Catholic Church and Christian churches are celebrating today as being the Last Supper, but we could see that those two calendars aren't in synchronicity with each other, and that is why we look at this one to truly understand what's going on. Okay, there you have it. That gets us started. UFO news is up next. Let's get to it.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, plenty of stories today. The first one takes us to Hong Kong. This was from an observatory cam on the 13th. This was last over the weekend. There's our UFO in question. A link to the cam if you want to check it out yourself and watch it. This email report came in today. I am blown away by the UFO hovering over Chengcha area. UFO looks a lot like the UFO that was seen in the airport back in July 2010 over Chinese Exolshan Airport. Very lucky and amazing catch on the weather cams. These cams still have photos, not video, so its movement is not known. Okay, there's our object right there. It's a pretty good size object, don't you think? Pretty good size object. Alright, now we're going to go over to New Albany, Ohio. This was April 11th. This was last Friday. A little blue dot there, blue orb. The possibility exists that this is a UFO. Such UFOs have been seen around the world. For instance, the UFO that defended over Dome of Rock in Jerusalem, which was recorded by not one, but 7 to 9 eyewitnesses from different tour groups and different vantage points. However, we need closer confirmation to ensure that this is not an LAD-RC toy. So here's a copy of UFO sighting. My roommate and I both stopped to record. We spotted and saw this UFO tonight after work between 9 to 10 p.m. Really don't believe in UFOs, but this looks pretty much like one. LOL. By standard, said it was a toy airplane, but we don't think so. Okay. And you can see it up there. Alright. Alright, you see it? It looks like this is it right here. Is that it? Okay, so there's our object in question. When you make the screen larger, you'll be able to see it much better. Okay, there you go. Now we're going to move from there. This is over to New Mexico. The other day I had the story for you about Phil Schneider. This is a little bit more information about Dulce. If you want to hear a good interview up on the First Contact website, there's an interview there from Norio Hayakawa we did talking about Dulce, and he certainly is very knowledgeable about the whole area and what's going on there. Anyway, this is what we're told Dulce looks like underground. 7 stories underground with a variety of different projects going on per level. But there is also said that as it gets down so far, we have here alien housing. At a certain point, we have aliens and humans working together. And when we get down to the lower levels, sometimes the lower levels might just be the extraterrestrials themselves. So as I'm talking about alien-related stories, Dulce papers have it all, including greys, reptilians, alien-human hybrids, abductions, cattle mutilations, and manipulation experiments, cover-ups, murder, and underground alien bases. The story of Dulce is centered around Thomas Castillo, or Castillo in some sources. Dulce papers talk about Castillo, but apparently they are rarely seen or not seen at all. These papers are allegedly talking about a joint alien U.S. government underground facility found beneath Dulce, New Mexico. Included in the papers are black and white illustrations of scenes apparently witnessed by Costello. Rumors spread that there are 25 images in the papers, but only 5 can be found online as the original file is said to be lost. There are many YouTube videos online claiming to show aliens at the Dulce base. While Thomas Costello is the center of this entire story, he is a deep throat himself because no one has ever met him, communicated, or interviewed with him directly. At least no one can prove to have talked to or met him in the flesh. It has been always through an intermediary. It is said that the underground bunker has different sections, including the entrance of the UFO elevator, security and communications, human staff housing, execs and labs, alien housing, genetic experience, and cryogenic storage. It is also revealed that it is an underground shuttle to Los Alamos. So here we have an episode of the Alien Hunters. Links there, you can watch that. And here is also a little bit more about the base. It's another 12-minute video. So some good material to check out. I'm going to move on from here. The links are available at firstcontactradio.com. Now, the other day, if you saw the moon when it was going through its phase, through its eclipse, some of you may have seen a UFO. And if you thought you did, well, you're not alone. On April 15th, everyone was focused on the blood red moon event. This amateur astronomer managed to capture a UFO crossing the surface of the moon before flying off into space. I cannot speak of the authenticity of this video, but it certainly is intriguing. Okay. And it says an amateur astronomer sent us this footage displaying an object coming up from the surface of the moon and going around the backside. The video itself 3 minutes in length. And here we've got a little better version. Again, when you expand your screen, it will be much easier to see. I'm able to do it right here. Okay, see it right here. Just moving very slowly. It's about to go into that light area. We're not really going to see it very good, and then it'll pop off here. There it is. So, very interesting indeed. Very good catch. And now we're going to jump over to Mars. And one of the things we see on Mars are these various honeycomb structures. On Mars exists a patchwork of rectangular ridges, a mysterious feature unique to the red planet. While better and better photographs narrow down the plausible theories, we still don't know exactly what created these puzzling structures. The first time I saw these geometrical features was with Mariner 9 in 1972. The intersecting rectangular ridges almost immediately spawned conspiracy theories about Martian cities and immediately earned the nickname Inca City. Scientists postulated about dunes formed by annual winds from minimally two distinct directions, either modern or ancient dunes that were buried, hardened, or exposed, or perhaps the ridges were formed from interjections of magma, forming dikes or soft sediment pushed into subsurface cracks, hardened and then exposed by wind erosion. Okay. There's a good long distance shot of it. 2002, the Mars Global Surveyor and the Mars Orbital Camera took a wide-angle photograph during the spring melt. The larger content shot revealed the Inca City ridges are part of a larger circular feature, 86 kilometers across. Okay, there we go. Circles have always been exciting in planetary science and are frequently indicators of impact craters. If this is an ancient buried crater that has been partially exposed, the ridges could be fractures in the bedrock from the initial impact or filled in cracks from the shattered cracked floor. Maybe this isn't a crater and the ridges were formed by some other process entirely. Every year, the entire region is covered in a few meters of carbon dioxide ice. During the spring defrost, dark patches are exposed in the rectangular pits. A pair of photographs taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter during the ice-free months to build up a high-resolution digital terrain model of the location. The DTM is scaled to a meter per pixel with variations in vertical relief mapped to tens of centimeters. Now we have a beautiful detailed image of exactly what these features look like. Maybe one day we'll have a single solid theory for how they have formed. All right. So it's very fascinating to find what is continuously discovered up there on Mars. Are these natural? Are these made by some sort of beings that are up there? Or a combination of both? I guess time will tell as we continue the exploration. Alright, there you have it, UFO news. I'm going to jump away just for a moment to get things organized here, and I'll be right back. We're going to continue on with the Passover reading for today, and then on into the Kryballion, continue on with that study. So stay tuned.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Quick. Okay, so today, this is the page that has the readings for Passover. Today it shows two readings here, Exodus 13 and then the numbers 28 through 16 through 25, which is the rest of the week. It's read once a day. We did that one yesterday, so I'm just going to jump right over to the Exodus. Here we have Exodus 33, 1 through 16. The Lord said to Moses, "Depart, go up from here, you and the people whom you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, to the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your offspring I will give it. I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, and the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey. But I will not go among you, lest I consume you on the way, for you are a stiff-necked people." When the people heard the disastrous word, they mourned, and no one put on his ornaments, for the Lord had said to Moses, "Say to the people of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. If for a single moment I should go up among you, I would consume you. So now take off your ornaments, that I may know what to do with you." Therefore the people of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. Now Moses used to take the tent and pitch it outside the camp, far off from the camp, and he called it the tent of meeting. And everyone who sought the Lord would go out to the tent of meeting, which was outside of the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would rise up, and each would stand at his tent door and watch Moses until he had gone into the tent. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord would speak with Moses. And when all of the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, all the people would rise up and worship, each at his tent door. Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses turned again into the camp, his assistant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, would not depart from the tent. Moses said to the Lord, "See, you say to me, 'Bring up this people,' but you have not let me know whom I will send with me. Yet you have said, 'I know you by name,' and you have also found favor in my sight. Now therefore I have found favor in your sight. Please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people." And he said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your goings with us that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth?" And there you have it. So, very interesting, these conversations, when we hear about ufology mixed in with the whole biblical study. We sometimes find correlations of who perhaps Moses might have been talking with. Was he speaking directly with God, or was this an extraterrestrial intervention at this time? And that's one of the things that is out there, very interesting to discover and learn. In time, I'm sure we will all know more and more. All right, let's move over to the Kryballion. So, just a little refresher. We did the introduction of the Hermetic philosophy, which talked about the 7 principles of Hermetics, which is mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. And then we've only been dealing so far with the first one, mentalism, which consisted of quite a lot. Mental transmutation, the all, the mental universe, divine paradox, and the all. And what has been discussed in each one of these has been pretty much along the same lines, that the universe is comprised of this mental energy. And this mental energy, which is considered to be the all, or called the all, not only exists within itself, but exists outside of itself. So all that there is the all. And by contacting and understanding first and foremost that this all, this mental energy, is all around us, it lets us know first and foremost of how we manifest into life. How we manifest things into life. We start with the mind, and then we bring it down into manifestation. Just like the idea of the magician. The magician is focusing that mental energy, focusing that downward into the other areas. Okay? So if you want a refresher on any of those, just go through. I've I've done these each last couple of weeks, and each one of these chapters has been dealt with. So you can find these links either on the last Thursday or Friday shows of the last 3 weeks. But today we're going to move on to the next one of the principles, and this is the principle of correspondence. Okay, so correspondence. As above, so below, as below, so above, the Kryballion. The second great Hermetic principle embodies the truth that there is a harmony, agreement, and a correspondence between the several planes of manifestation, life, and being. The truth is a truth because all that is included in the universe emanates from the same source, and the same laws, principles, and characteristics apply to each unit or combination of units of activity as each manifests its own phenomena upon its own plane. For the purpose of convenience of thought and study, the Hermetic philosophy considers that the universe may be divided into 3 classes of phenomena, known as the 3 great planes, namely the great physical plane, the great mental plane, and the great spiritual plane. These divisions are more or less artificial and arbitrary, for the truth is that all 3 divisions are but ascending degrees of the great scale of life, the lowest point of which is undifferentiated matter, the highest point that of spirit, and moreover the different planes shade into each other, so that no hard or fast division may be made between the higher phenomena of the physical and the lower of the mental, or between the higher of the mental and the lower of the physical. In short, the 3 great planes may be regarded as 3 great groups of degrees of life manifestation. While the purpose of this little book do not allow us to enter into the extended discussion or explanation of the subject of these different planes, still we think it well to give a general description of the same at this point. At the beginning, we may be well consider the question so often asked by the neophyte, who desires to be informed regarding the meaning of the word plane, which term has been very freely used and very poorly explained in many recent works upon the subject of occultism. The question is generally about as follows: is a plane a space having dimensions, or is it merely a condition or a state? We answer no, not a place, nor ordinary dimension of space, and yet more than a state or a condition. It may be considered as a state or a condition, and yet the state or condition is a degree of dimension in scale subject to measurement. Somewhat paradoxical, is it not? But let us examine the matter. A dimension, you know, is a measure in a straight line relating to a measure, etc. The ordinary dimensions of space are length, breadth, and width, or perhaps length, breadth, height, thickness, or circumference. But there is another dimension of created things, or measure in a straight line, known to occultists and to scientists as well, although the latter have not yet applied the term dimension to it, and this new dimension, which, by the way, is the much speculated about 4th dimension, is the standard used in determining degrees of planes. This 4th dimension may be called the dimension of vibration. It is a fact well known to modern science as well as to the Hermeticists, who have embodied the truth in their 3rd Hermetic principle, that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. From the highest manifestation to the lowest, everything and all things vibrate. Not only do they vibrate at different rates of motion, but at different directions and in different manner. The degrees of the rate of vibration constitute the degrees of measurement on the scale of vibrations. In other words, the degrees of the 4th dimension. And these degrees form what occultists call planes. The higher the degree, the rate of vibration, the higher the plane, and the higher the manifestation of life occupying that plane. So that while the plane is not a place, nor yet a state or condition, yet it possesses qualities common to both. We shall have more to say regarding the subject of the scale of vibrations in our next lesson, in which we shall consider the Hermetic principle of vibration. You will kindly remember, however, that the 3 great planes are not actual divisions of this phenomena of the universe, but merely arbitrary terms used by the Hermeticists in order to aid in the thought and the study of the various degrees and forms of universal activity in life. The atom of matter, the unit of force, the mind of man, and being of the archangel are all but degrees in one scale, and all fundamentally the same, the difference between them solely a matter of degree, a rate of vibration, are all creations of the All, and have their existence solely within the infinite mind of the All. The Hermeticists subdivide each of the three great planes into 7 minor planes, and each of these later are also subdivided into 7 subplanes, all divisions being more or less arbitrary, shading into each other and adopted merely for convenience of scientific study and thought. The great physical plane and its 7 minor planes is that division of the phenomena of the universe which includes all that relates to physics, or material things, forces and manifestations. It includes all forms of that which we call matter, and all forms which we call energy or force. But you must remember that the Hermetic philosophy does not recognize matter as a thing in itself, or having a separate existence even in the mind of the All. The teachings are that the matter is but a form of energy, that is, energy at a low rate of vibrations of a certain kind. And according to the Hermeticists, classify matter under the head of energy, we give it to 3 of the 7 minor planes of the great physical plane. The 7 minor physical planes are as follows: the plane of matter, A; the plane of matter, B; the plane of matter, C; the plane of ethereal substance, the plane of energy, A; plane of energy, B; and the plane of energy, C. The plane of matter, A, comprises all the forms of matter in its forms of solids, liquids, and gases as generally recognized by the textbooks on physics. The planes of matter, B, comprises certain higher and more subtle forms of matter in this existence, of which modern sciences is now recognizing the phenomena of radiant matter in its phase of radium, etc., belonging to the lower subdivision of the minor plane. The plane of matter, C, comprises forms of the most subtle and tenuous matter, the existence of which is not suspected by ordinary scientists. The plane of ethereal substance comprises that which science speaks of as ether, the substance of extreme tenuity and elasticity, pervading the all-universal space, and acting as a medium for the transmission of waves of energy such as light, heat, electricity, etc. This ethereal substance forms a connecting link between matter, so called, and energy, and partakes of the nature of each. The Hermetic teachings, however, instruct that this plane has 7 subdivisions, as have all of the minor planes, and that in fact there are 7 ethers instead of but 1. Next, above the plane of ethereal substance, comes the plane of energy, A, which comprises the ordinary forms of energy known to science, its 7 subplanes being respectively heat, light, magnetism, electricity, and attraction, including gravitation, cohesion, chemical affinity, etc., and several other forms of energy indicated by scientific experiments, but none as yet named or classified. The plane of energy, B, comprises 7 subplanes of higher forms of energy, not as yet discovered by science, but which have been called nature's finer forces, and which are called into operation into manifestations of certain forms of mental phenomena, and by which such phenomena becomes possible. The plane of energy, C, comprises 7 subplanes of energy so highly organized that it bears many of the characteristics of life, but which is not recognized by the minds of men on the ordinary plane of development, being available for the use of beings on the spiritual plane alone. Such energy is unthinkable to the ordinary man, and may be considered almost as the divine power, the beings employing the same as the gods, compared even to the highest human types known to us. The great mental plane comprises these forms of living things known to us in ordinary life, as well as certain other forms not so well known except to the occultist. The classification of the 7 minor mental planes is more or less satisfactory and arbitrary, unless accompanied by elaborate explanations which are foreign to the purpose of this particular work. But we may well mention them. They are as follows: the plane of the mineral mind, the plane of the elemental mind, A; the plane of the planet mind, the plane of elemental mind, B; the plane of the animal mind, the plane of the elemental mind, C; and the plane of the human field. The plane of the mineral mind comprises the states of conditions of the units or entities, or groups and combinations of the same, which animate the forms known to us as minerals, chemicals, etc. These entities must not be confounded with the molecules, atoms, and corpuscles themselves, the latter being merely the material bodies or forms of these entities, just as the man's body is but the material form and not himself. These entities may be called souls in one sense, and are living beings of a low degree of developmental life and mind, just a little more than the units of living energy which comprise the higher subdivisions of the highest physical plane. The average mind does not generally attribute the possession of mind, soul, or life to the mineral kingdom, but all occultists recognize the existence of the same, and modern science is rapidly moving forward to the point of view of the Hermetic in this respect. The molecules, atoms, and the corpuscles have their love and hates, likes and dislikes, attractions and repulsions, affinities and non-affinities, etc., and some of the more daring of modern scientific minds have expressed the opinion that the desire and will, emotions and feelings of the atoms differ only in degree from those of men. We have no time or space to argue this matter here. All occultists know it to be a fact, and others are referred to some of the more recent scientific works for outside corroboration. There are the usual 7 subdivisions to this plane. The plane of the ethereal mind, A, comprises the state or condition and degree of mental and vital development of the class of entities unknown to the average man, but recognized to occultists. They are invisible to the ordinary senses of man, but nevertheless exist and play their part of the drama of the universe. Their degree of intelligence is between that of the mineral and the chemical entities on the one hand, and the entities of the plant kingdom and on the other. There are 7 subdivisions to this plane also. The plane of the plant mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states or conditions of the entities comprising the kingdoms of the plant world, the vital and the mental phenomena of which is fairly well understood by the average intelligent person. Many new and interesting scientific works regarding mind and life in plants having been published during the last decade. Plants have life, mind, and souls, as well as have animals, man, and Superman. The plane of ethereal mind B, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states and conditions of a higher form of elemental or unseen entities playing their part in the general work of the universe. The mind and life of which forms a part of the scale between the plane of the plant mind and the plane of the animal mind, the entities partaking of the nature of both. The plane of animal mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states and conditions of the entities, beings, or souls animating the animal forms of life familiar to us all. It is not necessary to go into details regarding this kingdom of or plane of life, for the animal world is as familiar to us as our own. The plane of elemental mind C, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises those entities or beings invisible as are all such elemental forms which partake of the nature of both animal and human life in a degree in certain combinations. The highest forms are semi-human in intelligence. The plane of human mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises those manifestations of life and mentality which are common to man in his various grades, degrees, and divisions. In this connection, we wish to point out the fact that the average man of today occupies but the 4th subdivision of the plane of the human mind, and only the most intelligent have crossed the borders of the 5th subdivision. It has taken the race millions of years to reach this stage, and it will take many more years for the race to move on to the 6th and 7th subdivisions and beyond. But remember that there have been races before us which have passed through these degrees and then on to the higher planes. Our own race is the 5th, which stragglers up from the 4th, which has set foot upon the path. And there are a few advanced souls of our own race who have outstripped the masses and who have passed on to the 6th and 7th subdivision, and some few beings still further on the sun. The man of the 6th subdivision will be the Superman. He of the 7th will be the Overman. In consideration of the 7 minor mental planes, we have merely referred to the 3 elementary planes in a general way. We do not wish to go into the subject in detail in this work, for it does not belong to this part of the general philosophy and teachings. But we may say this much in order to give you a little clearer idea of the relations of these planes to the more familiar ones. The elementary planes bear the same relation to the planes of the mineral, plant, animal, and human mentality and life that the black keys and the piano do with the white keys. The white keys are sufficient to produce music, but there are certain scales, melodies, and harmonies in which the black keys play their part and in which their presence is necessary. They are also necessary as connecting links of soul condition, entity states, etc. between the several other planes, certain forms of development being attained therein. This last fact giving to the reader who can read between the lines a new light upon the process of evolution and a new key to the secret door of the leaps of life between kingdom and kingdom. The great kingdoms of elementals are fully recognized by all occultists, but the esoteric writings are full of mention of them. The readers of Bulwer's Sanoni and similar tales will recognize the entities inhabiting these planes of life. Passing on from the great mental plane to the great spiritual plane, what shall we say? How can we explain these higher states of being, life, and mind to minds that are yet unable to grasp and understand the higher subdivisions of the plane of the human mind? The task is impossible. We can speak only in the most general terms. How may light be described to a man born blind? How sugar to a man who has never tasted anything sweet? How harmony to one who is born deaf? All we can say is that the 7 minor planes of the great spiritual plane, each minor plane having its 7 subdivisions, comprise beings possessing life, mind, and form as far above the man of today as the latter is above the earthworm, mineral, or even certain forms of energy or matter. The life of these beings so far transcends ours that we cannot even think of the details of the same. Their mind so far transcends ours that to them we scarcely seem to think, and our mental processes seem most akin to the material processes. The matter of which their forms are comprised is of the highest planes of matter. Nay, some are even said to be clothed in pure energy. What may be said of such beings? On the 7 minor planes, the great spiritual plane exists, beings of whom we speak of as angels, archangels, demigods. On the lower minor planes dwell those great souls whom we call masters and adepts. Above them come the great hierarchies of angelic hostes, unthinkable to man, and above those come those who may without irreverence be called the gods, so high in the scale of being that they are, their being, intelligence, and power being akin to those attributed by the races of men to their conceptions of deity. These beings are beyond even the highest flights of human imagination, the word divine being the only one applicable to them. Many of these beings, as well as the angelic host, take the greatest interest in the affairs of the universe and play an important part in its affairs. These unseen divinities and angelic helpers extend their influence freely and powerfully in the process of evolution and cosmic progress. Their occasional intervention and assistance in human affairs have led the many legends, beliefs, religions, and traditions of the race, past and present. They have superimposed their knowledge and power upon the world again and again, all under the law of the all, of course. But yet even the highest of these advanced beings exist merely as creations of and in the mind of all, and are subject to the cosmic processes and universal laws. We are still mortal. We may call them gods if we like, but they are still but the elder brethren of the race, the advanced souls who have outstripped their brethren and who have foregone the ecstasy of absorption by the all in order to help the human race on its upward journey along the path. But they belong to the universe, and they are subject to its conditions. They are mortal, and their plane is below that of the absolute spirit. Only the most advanced Hermeticists are able to grasp the inner teachings regarding the states of existence and the powers manifested on the spiritual planes. The phenomena is so much higher than that of the mental planes that a confusion of ideas would surely result in an attempt to describe the same. Only those whose minds have been carefully trained along the lines of Hermetic philosophy for years, yes, those who are brought with them from other incarnations and the knowledge acquired previously, can comprehend just what is meant by the teaching regarding these spiritual planes. And much of these inner teachings is held by the Hermeticists as being too sacred, important, and even dangerous for the general public dissemination. The intelligent student may recognize what we mean by this when we state that the meaning of the spirit as used by the Hermeticist, is akin to living power, animated force, inner essence, essence of life, etc., which meaning must not be confounded with the usually and commonly employed in connection with the term, for example, religious, ecclesiastical, spiritual, ethereal, holy, etc. To occultists, the word spirit is used in the sense of the animating principle, carrying with it the idea of power, living energy, mystic force, etc. And occultists know that that which is known to them as spiritual power may be employed for evil as well as good ends, in accordance with the principle of polarity, a fact which has been recognized by the majority of religions in their conceptions of Satan, Beelzebub, the devil, Lucifer, fallen angels, etc. And so the knowledge regarding these planes has been kept in the holy of the holies, in the esoteric fraternities and occult orders, in the secret chamber of the temple. But this may be said here, that those who have attained high spiritual powers and have misused them have a terrible fate in store for them, and the swing of the pendulum and rhythm will eventually swing them back to the furthest extreme of material existence, from which point they must retrace their steps spiritward towards the weary rounds of the path, but always with the added torture of having always with them the lingering memory of the heights from which they fell owing to their evil actions. The legends of the fallen angels have a basis in actual facts, as all advanced occultists know. The striving for selfish power on spiritual planes inevitably results in the selfish soul losing its spiritual balance and falling back as far as it had previously risen. But to even such a soul the opportunity of return is given, and such souls make the return journeying, paying the terrible penalty according to the invariable law. In conclusion, we would like to remind you that according to the principle of correspondence, which embodies the truth, as above, so below, so below, so above, as the 7 Hermetic principles are in full operation on all of the many planes, physical, mental, and spiritual. The principle of mental substance, of course, applies to all the planes, for all are held in the mind of the all. The principle of correspondence manifests in all, for there is correspondence, harmony, and agreement between the several planes. The principle of vibration manifests on all planes. In fact, the very differences that go to make up the planes arise from vibration, as we have explained. The principle of polarity manifests on each plane, the extremes of the poles being apparently opposite and contradictory. The principle of rhythm manifests in each plane, the movement of the phenomena having its ebb and flow, rise and flow, incoming and outgoing. The principle of cause and effect manifests on each plane, each effect having its cause, and every cause having its effect. The principle of gender manifests on each plane, and the creative energy being always manifest and operates along the line of its masculine and feminine aspects. As above, so below, as below, so above. This centuries-old Hermetic axiom embodies one of the great principles of the universal phenomena. As we proceed with our consideration of the remaining principles, we will see even more clearly the truth of the universal nature of this great principle of correspondence. So, quite a lot of information there, but the gist of it is that as we see all of these planes of existence, and within the planes there are multiple minor planes that exist, we see that it's just really a well thought out process by the mind, that each one of these planes corresponds to the planes above and below it. And in that way, life manifests itself because of this continual correspondence. So there's a lot here to learn and read from. Please read through it over and over as you need to understand. And it's a lot of good stuff here. A lot of good stuff. I get something more out of it every time I read it, as I'm sure everybody does. So there you have it. That is the principle of correspondence in the Kryballion for today. Let's move on to the next issue at hand. This is an article here. It's called Beyond Science, How to Talk to Your DNA. Kind of ties in with what we were just referring to, because communicating with our DNA is another way of corresponding to these other planes and other ways in which our energy manifests. This is from Michelle Walling over at In5D. Our DNA holds the secrets of immortality and wellness. Within it lies the wisdom of not only our genetic ancestors, but our past and future life experiences as well. We've been told that we'll be activating 10 strands of dormant junk DNA that are overlaid in the 2 active strands of DNA that we currently operate. How can we activate this extra DNA in order to access the wisdom needed to move forward? DNA lies in the nucleus of each cell in our body, except for the red blood cells. The blood in the body carries the DNA, but only in the white blood cells of the blood, since the red blood cells do not have the nuclei. The instructions for the blueprint for the human body is replicated in full in each nucleus. In essence, our body is one large hologram, with each cell containing a multiple pattern of DNA, and all cells make up the whole of our physical existence. In other words, each cell corresponds to another cell. That is where the idea of the hologram, you can kind of tie that in. A hologram is a bigger or smaller version of something else. Well, it's one version, a bigger or smaller version, corresponding with the one before or after it. Besides serving as a template, DNA serves as a place to store records of experiences and wisdom, and also allows for communication to deeper aspects of ourself. Scientists today are aware that we have 2 active, intertwining strands of DNA that carry the codes for our characteristics and interaction as human beings. Within these 2 strands lies the genetic imprint of our other father, grandparents, and so on for our physical embodiment. The other strands of DNA have been labeled inactive by science. Beyond science, the mysterious DNA is the magical doorway to the new kingdom. The exciting news is that the other strands are slowly awakening and merging with the other 2 strands in expansion as we raise our vibration in concert with the planet. The diminishing magnetic field and increasing solar flare activity is part of what will cause our other strands of DNA to be activated, or to merge into existence as the vibration continues to rise. This would allow a shift in consciousness as the higher wisdom of our DNA is accessible within the physical body. Why would I want to talk to my DNA? Is the question. Well, every cell in our DNA has consciousness that is linked to the higher self. The higher self is the conscious mind of our soul, which is the larger essence of who we are as spiritual beings. We are a finger of consciousness from the soul sent down to the lower dimensions. As our soul is so big that it cannot fit into the compact denseness of the 3rd dimension, our universe, galaxy, and planet expands. It allows for space for us to expand as well. This will allow for more access to our soul particles, and we are choosing to bring them into this reality of living in a human body. In order to do this, we must change from a carbon blueprint to one of lighter density. By communicating with our DNA, we can accomplish healing, better nutrition, wisdom, ascension, all these good things, because we're corresponding with ourselves, and that's what it's all about. Okay, let's jump to the end here. It says, the veil is lifting and knowledge is pouring in, which blesses us with wisdom. Within this wisdom, we may find that there are an infinite number of strands of DNA instead of just 12. Creation is infinite, and we are microcosms of the macrocosm. Activation of our strands of DNA will bring a clear communication with our higher self, which will be the foundation for the golden age. Talking to our DNA is a powerful tool of creation, which allows for the manifestation of this transformation into our reality. These are the secrets that have been hidden from us for many years. Knowledge brings wisdom, and wisdom brings peace. Okay, so much to be learned in all of these processes, and at this point in time, we do have science which does refer to some DNA not being used as junk DNA, but really, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, would the great creator have just created some junk in us that's never going to be used? No, not as we now understand things, because everything corresponds to everything else. And so that junk DNA is just not being utilized as the human mind can comprehend, but there are obviously functions that it has that correspond with other aspects of our energy and our life, which are beyond what we normally use. But at some time we will, and perhaps these were DNA that we used in the past that we just lost track of how to use them again. I know that we think that we've come a long way in society and that we're very advanced, but perhaps beings of the past were much more advanced than we are. Perhaps our technology has actually deterred our growing because we are so used to the technology that instead of going in and learning to rely on our own inner selves, we're relying on something outside of us. Not that technology is bad. I think technology has its place and is very good. But with all things, we must not surrender our power to that outside of us. We must always continually go inside of us. And as humankind likes to do, he likes to give up our power to things like astrologies and tarot and Kabbalahs and all these other sciences because we think that's what we're supposed to do. Instead, we're supposed to learn from these tools, from these sciences, and apply the wisdom so that we can continue to go inside and dig deeper into who we are and what we're about. Because the true path to this wisdom is on the inside. That's where we're going to find it. And everyone who does go there always finds the same results. That's where they needed to go in the first place. Sometimes it seems as if the answers we need are so challenging to find because they're hidden in the one place that most people will never look inside of themselves. And once we stop and go inside to look, it's amazing what we find. It's right there. It's right there. All right, that brings us up to our meditation for today. So go ahead and take a deep breath and exhale. Take another deep breath and exhale again. And just continue to breathe slowly. And as you breathe in and out, think of the idea of how one plane of energy corresponds with the next plane. And keep breathing in and out, and just think of how your breath corresponds to breathing on all of the other planes. And as you realize and understand this correspondence, you realize that this correspondence is a communication that continually occurs from the higher planes all the way down to the lower and back up again. And as we learn to communicate, to correspond with all of these other planes, we learn to become more effective as beings in life, not just on the physical plane, but on all planes. So imagine yourself communicating with all aspects of who you are. And as you do, imagine all of these other planes of existence vibrating and corresponding in an excited manner because you are consciously focused on communicating with them. As you communicate and correspond with all of these other planes of existence that make up you and all things around you, imagine yourself growing in all ways, mentally, spiritually, physically. And as you correspond better with yourself, imagine that you are then therefore corresponding better with life. And the ways in which you meet and greet and communicate with others are changed. Because as you correspond better with yourself, you're corresponding better with the energy around you, the same energy which makes up every other living being upon this planet. And as we understand that our correspondence makes a difference, we learn to correspond and communicate differently with who we are. So imagine yourself in good, open communication, correspondence with yourself on all levels. Imagine yourself being in complete synchronicity with who you are and what you're about. See yourself walking the path of life and talking and communicating with others along the way. And though you recognize the others as being another entity outside of yourself, you also recognize them as being an energetic part of yourself, an extension of who you are. And in the same way, you are an extension of who they are. and we are an extension of each other. Allow yourself to contemplate these ideas and let your subconscious mind just continue to understand more and more as we go throughout the day. And throughout that understanding, the subconscious mind just brings that wisdom to the conscious mind. And in understanding this relation between the subconscious and the conscious, we understand there is a correspondence taking place. As one realm of consciousness corresponds with another. So as we go throughout the day, just see and experience all the times where you correspond with yourself, with others, with the energy around you. As we go through the day, just see how we become conscious of these correspondences that take place. How it feels. How the experience affects us and those around us. And in this correspondence, let's just imagine sending love through all our communications, all our correspondences, to ourselves, to others, to the world around us. And let's just imagine now our subconscious mind continuing on this journey, sending out love, continuing to communicate and correspond with all these subtle aspects of who we are. And let's bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's it for today. Thank you very much for being here. A lot of information in that Kryballion. So the link's available. You can check it out, download the information, and just keep studying it. It's good stuff, and just like I find out every time, you'll find out that every time you read, you'll learn something more and more. We all do. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Have some good correspondences and communications today. Much love and light to each one of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.